Hi guys, I want to talk to you about using strategic communication to advocate for things that are important to you. And this is the first time I've spoken about this topic, so you'll have to forgive me if I fumble a little bit. But I think it's important because it's something that I try to do in my career. And I know a lot of the students that I work with are really passionate about various topics. And I think this is one of the benefits of being a strategic thinker and someone trained in strategy is that you are trained to advocate for various ideas, various positions, and what a better way to use those skills than to advocate for things that you are really passionate about. So, what I'm speaking about when I'm talking about advocating, I don't particularly mean just advocating for everything that you are interested in or um, every position that you have passion for. I particularly mean finding one kernel or one thread that you are most passionate about and using your career and your skills to pursue that and advocate for that. So, in a sense, just in the same way that you are strategic about crafting a campaign or doing strategic writing, you can also be strategic about your career. So, you can have goals in what you might strategically try to advocate for. You can market yourself in ways that help advocate for those ideals, but you want to really think about your audience, and you want to do this each time you approach a new client or put out a new piece or um, talk about your topic. And you want to make sure that you're thinking about like what are what's the right level at which to talk about these ideas, how much is too far, what's okay, and um, yeah, so let's get into some specifics, and I think it will make a little bit more sense. So first of all, right, identify what you're most passionate about. And for a lot of people, that won't require a lot of searching. You probably know what you're passionate about. So this involves, for me, and what I'm talking about here, you're finding the one little corner of the world where you really want to make a difference. So for me, it's helping patients and providers in the healthcare space communicate more clearly um, and and improve healthcare through better communication. I also am really passionate about helping people understand that the communication that we have every day has health outcomes. There are physical health consequences to the communication that we have in a variety of ways. And I'm really passionate about helping people find more and better social support. Some of that is easier to approach and advocate for through the work that I do, and some of that is more just stuff that I do or try to help people with outside of my professional life. But what I recommend people do is find the one little thing that sets you on fire and think about how your skills can help people in that area, and think about how you really want to help people. So for me, as a writer and someone with communication coaching skills, I can help healthcare organizations, clinics, I can help providers, I can write materials that are a little bit more thoughtful and empathetic about the communication that happens between providers and patients. And so I help in all those little ways in each and every little thing that I do. But I also have some bigger steps that I can take on some occasions. So first of all, I recommend thinking practically. So you want to think about how can you make the thing you're passionate about marketable. So who makes money in this area? So I'm lucky that my passion lies in healthcare. There are some really obvious people who make money in this space. Maybe your topic aligns with the environment, and you would look at environmental groups who rely on fundraising from donors or government funding. Maybe you're interested in fitness, and then you're thinking about like, traditional gyms or individual people who pay money for fitness programs. So you would think about like where the money comes from and how you can make money in that area. And then you're going to start thinking about who you could pitch, and along with that, who you need to start getting to know, who's going to be a helpful ally for you, a potential client, and who in your network can start introducing you to those people. And early on, it may just be learning about the landscape of the field and starting to make introductions. And even before you're ready to start doing this type of work, you can start getting to know people, doing informational interviews, just figuring out what the field is. It would not hurt to do this work, even if you don't think you necessarily want to freelance. It's never a bad idea to do some networking. So also, along with thinking practically, there's some idealistic thinking that comes into play with this type of work. What is your dream? If you had complete control of the world and could do whatever you wanted in regards to this one little corner of the world, what would you change? So that's not going to happen, right? Like I can't just fix communication between patients and providers and make it more clear and thoughtful in every medical encounter in the world. But I do like to keep in mind that that is what I am ideally hoping I can have some kind of impact over. So keep that in mind as you work, and don't lose sight of your big goal, even though a lot of the work you do is not going to be directly impacting that big goal, or will be like chipping away at it at a very, very small amount. And don't lose heart when you're chipping away very, very smallly, in very, very small ways, because you will find projects eventually and occasionally that do let you have a bigger impact. So really what you're doing is balancing between having a practical impact and doing some idealistic work. So practically, I do a lot of work within existing systems for existing hospitals, insurance organizations, and help them clarify their communication, phrase one or two things in a more empathetic way that's going to help patients feel less off-put when they look at the website. Really small things, but it does make a difference, I think. And then I can also do some things on my own or with the occasional client who is open to being more innovative that make bigger changes. So, right, so like I said, within the system, I can do small tweaks, change the phrasing, can let them think about things in a more person-centered way, be more empathetic. And I don't recommend, you don't want to be the person who's always bringing up the topic that you're passionate about. You don't want to be annoying or badger people that way. But when it is relevant to the discussions that your client is having, then that's a great time for you to step in there and say, hey, this is always what I recommend when we're talking about like this type of communication, or when we're talking about this type of phrasing. I always recommend it's done, from a person-centered perspective, which means this type of phrasing. And seek clients who like your voice and want your voice. Now, I will say this can take years to find the clients who really respect your voice and are interested. My favorite clients are the ones who, when an issue of language or how to phrase things comes up, they will actively seek my input. And that's probably a good sign that, they really appreciate me as well. My least favorite clients are the ones who are just looking for words to plop into a web page, and they don't particularly care for my expertise, right? So you'll do some of that work on your own if you get into freelancing. But yeah, find those clients who really appreciate your voice and are grateful when you do advocate for your expertise. But also walk that line of, you're not bringing it up every time that a conversation happens, just when the conversation is relevant to your area. And then there are some ways that you can advocate for change bigger. So I will use this as a way to promote myself whenever I write an article or a piece that I publish on LinkedIn that promotes me. This is the angle that I push, right? That I am somebody who's interested in improving communication or interested in person-centered communication. And and so the thing that you advocate for can become a niche that you are carving out for yourself in the market, and it can become a distinguishing factor that helps separate you from your competition. So this can be really beneficial to you in that way. So I will publish things like that on Medium, maybe on a blog. That I sometimes have a blog on my website. It comes and goes. Social media, if you get something published in another online publication, that's great too. And you can also create workshops and trainings that help people see whatever issue it is exactly the way you want them to see that. So I've done workshops for medical providers that help them communicate with patients in a more person-centered way. And I may not use the exact phrase person-centered. I might just say with more empathy, or communicate more clearly, or things that are sound less like communication jargon. But in those moments, right, when you get to do the workshops, the trainings, maybe you give a presentation or a speech at a conference, right, that's when you really can feel like you are in your dharma, or you are in your purpose, and it's incredibly fulfilling. So that work happens for me because I balance it out with small change and small steps. And I also am willing to work within the bounds of what the client wants. And I do a lot of work that is just like, I like all the work I do, but it's not all about, pushing forward my exact passion statement. But because I have clients who respect me and listen to me, and I market myself as someone who is passionate about these things, I do open up space for myself to have these moments where I get to feel like I'm really doing what I'm passionate about. So I know a lot of the people I teach and the people I work with are really interested in various topics and have come to strategic communication because there's something that they really want to change in the world. And so I wanted to start offering some tips about how you can, how, I guess, let me rephrase that, how I have carved out a niche for myself, advocating for what I am passionate about. And there may be better ways to do this. This is just the way that I do it. I certainly don't want to tell people that you can't just, flat out be a full-on advocate for what you want 100% all the time. There are people who have had massively successful careers doing just that. This is the way I do it, and it works well for me. So this is what I'm offering here, is one way to do this. So take it or leave it. Something that I would recommend, regardless of how you choose to advocate for your passion area, is stick with it. When you're carving out a new niche in a market in any way, it's going to take a little while, right? And so it's a bit of a balance, because some people will find that there isn't a market for what they do, but even if there is a market for the work that you're interested in, for the new niche that you're carving, it's going to take a while. And it took me a good few years to get to a point where I really regularly had work. The people who were interested in me could find me, and I knew where to find the people who wanted to hire me. I knew which people I should be talking to. It all takes a little while. Some people will tell you the first 5 years of a new business are going to be chaotic and difficult, and it wasn't entirely 5 years for me, but definitely the first 3 years were very difficult. So keep at it. And the good thing about advocating for something and working in an area you're passionate about is your passion can sustain you. When you wake up on a bad day or you're having a rough week, you can remember that you're doing something you feel really strongly about. And those moments when you're in projects where you feel like you are actually improving the world, right? You're a little corner of the world that you've chosen to make an impact in. You are making it better. That will feed you a lot and will really help you avoid some of the burnout and the difficulty that comes with being a freelancer and an entrepreneur. I am happy to answer any questions that anyone has about this topic. Feel free to write them in the comments or send me an email. And I hope that was helpful. I'll probably write or put up another video on this topic later when I get more practice in speaking about it and become more articulate on it. But thanks for watching, guys.